On July 15, 2025, a chilling statement echoed out of Moscow. Russia warned in no uncertain terms that any military activity around Greenland would be met with an unrelenting response. It was more than just words. It was a declaration, a red line drawn across the frozen Arctic, a place long seen as distant and quiet. But suddenly, Greenland was no longer just an icy wilderness. It had become a strategic dagger pointing at the heart of Russia, the United States, and the very foundation of the global order. The world paused. Why would an island with barely 56,000 residents spark such a storm between two nuclear superpowers? What is it about Greenland that makes NATO and Russia prepared to turn the Arctic into a battlefield? And perhaps the most dangerous question, if this red line is crossed, what comes next? Greenland is massive, the largest island on Earth. 80% of its surface is ice, stretching across 2 million square kilometers. On the surface, it looks like a barren sheet of white where the Inuit people live in remote communities, fishing and hunting as they have for centuries. But beneath this silence lies immense strategic power. Geography is destiny. Greenland straddles both the North Atlantic and the Arctic Oceans, placing it directly across from Russia's northern flank. It is a watchtower, a place where you can see across the polar expanse, monitor missile launches, track submarines, and even control global trade routes. Since World War II, the United States recognized this. In 1951, Washington signed a defense agreement with Denmark, which controls Greenland, and soon after established Thule Air Base, a sprawling military outpost in the Arctic Circle. Thule is not just any base. It is the beating heart of America's missile defense system. From here, advanced radars track missile launches from Russia or China. From here, US P-8 Poseidon patrol aircraft sweep across Arctic skies, and Virginia-class submarines lurking under the ice can reach Russia's Kola Peninsula, the home of its nuclear arsenal, in just 10 minutes. In other words, Greenland isn't just a frozen outpost. It's a strategic dagger aimed at Moscow's chest. If geography wasn't enough, climate change has raised the stakes even further. As the Arctic ice melts, it unlocks the Northern Sea Route, a shipping corridor that cuts travel time between Asia and Europe by 40% compared to the Suez Canal. For global trade, this is revolutionary. Billions of dollars in goods, energy, and resources can move faster and cheaper through these icy waters. Beneath Greenland's ice lies a treasure chest of resources, rare earth minerals essential for smartphones, satellites, and guided missiles, uranium deposits that could fuel nuclear energy, and vast reserves of oil and natural gas. The Kvanefjeld project alone holds 11 million tons of rare earth, critical for everything from jet fighters to green energy technology. For NATO, this means Greenland is not only a military outpost, it is a resource fortress. For Russia, it means NATO is positioning itself to choke Moscow's economy and surround its Arctic dominance. Over the past 3 years, NATO has turned up the pressure. The United States has deployed advanced drones and patrol aircraft from Iceland and Norway, flying just kilometers from Russian territory. In 2024, Exercise Cold Response brought over 35,000 NATO troops and the aircraft carrier USS Gerald R. Ford into Arctic waters, a direct rehearsal for warfare in icy conditions. Denmark, Greenland's governing power, unveiled a $2 billion security plan in June 2025, upgrading radars, building new ports, and deploying surveillance drones designed to watch the Arctic skies around the clock. To Moscow, these are not defensive moves. They are an encirclement, a slow tightening of NATO's grip on Russia's northern frontier. The Kremlin is not standing idle. Russia has transformed the Arctic into a fortified military frontier. Its northern fleet, based in Murmansk, patrols with nuclear-powered icebreakers and Yasen-class submarines armed with hypersonic Zircon missiles capable of striking NATO targets in minutes. On land, S-400 missile systems in Novi Zemlya can shoot down aircraft hundreds of kilometers away, while Iskander-M ballistic missiles stationed in Kaliningrad put NATO's Arctic facilities within reach. Russia has pioneered Arctic-specific technologies, ice sensing drones, underwater sonar networks, and air defense systems that function in -50-degree conditions. And beyond the military, Russia has made bold territorial claims. In 2021, it submitted a claim to the United Nations for ownership of the Lomonosov Ridge, a vast undersea area rich in oil and gas. That move alarmed Denmark, Canada, and the United States, accelerating the arms race we now see in the Arctic. Quietly but strategically, China has entered the game. Beijing calls itself a near-Arctic state and has invested heavily in Greenland. Chinese companies are financing mining projects like the K'Infjeld rare earth mine, building airports, and funding infrastructure that could have dual military use. For the United States, this raises alarms. Could China one day leverage Greenland's resources and infrastructure to tilt the balance of power in the Arctic? Amid this great power struggle are Greenland's 56,000 people, mostly Inuit. For them, these military buildups are not strategic chess moves. They are threats to their homes and way of life. Prime Minister Mute Ejed has openly declared that Greenland will not be a pawn in the games of great powers. There is also a push for independence, with a referendum expected by 2030. Many Greenlanders fear that their island will become a military target, its pristine ice fields scarred by missiles and submarines. If tensions continue to rise, what happens next? Analysts warn of three possible scenarios. The first is cyber warfare. Russia could sabotage undersea fiber optic cables linking Greenland to the outside world. This would paralyze communications and blind NATO's radar network at Thule. A misread GPS signal could easily spark a mistaken clash. The second is a blockade of the Arctic sea routes. Russia's northern fleet could declare a no-go zone around Greenland, choking off global trade worth billions. Oil prices would skyrocket, supply chains collapse, and NATO would be forced to respond. The third is a limited military clash. The most dangerous scenario is also the most likely, a small incident spiraling out of control. A Russian submarine brushing against a NATO destroyer, a patrol plane intercepted too aggressively, a single missile fired in error. Each of these could turn the Arctic from a Cold War into a hot one. Greenland, once seen as remote and irrelevant, is now a flashpoint for superpower rivalry. For NATO, it is a fortress. For Russia, it is a threat. For China, it is a resource. For Greenlanders, it is their fragile home. The question remains, will this icy island become a bridge for peace, or the spark for global conflict? Because in the Arctic, even a single miscalculation could set the world on fire. So, what do you think? Is Greenland destined to become the next battlefield, or could cooperation in the Arctic turn this frozen frontier into a zone of peace? Share your thoughts in the comments below, and don't forget to subscribe for more deep dives into the world's hidden flashpoints.